We are now officially 6 weeks away from Roland Garros, and we might be in for some major momentum shifts. From the 5 tournaments and crazy title runs, to Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic giving us a sneak peek of their play season plans, Joao Sosa's retirement, and some other major updates, here's everything that happened in the tennis world last week.
Whoa, whoa. Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
The action begins in Estoril as Dominic Thiem returns to the ATP Tour for the first time since the Australian Open. Facing Maximilian Marterer in the round of 32, we see some glimpses of Thiem's ferocious forehands. After taking the first set 6-1, Thiem looked to be cruising to victory, but Marterer had other ideas, managing to come out on top in the second set thanks to a tiebreak. The back-and-forth action continued, but after 2 hours and 14 minutes, it was the 2020 US Open Grand Slam winner who would come out on top in 3 sets, earning his first ATP win of the year.
Dominic Thiem gets his first win of 2024.
Fans would have been relieved with Thiem's performance, seeing that he was having some discomfort in his wrist. But when we flew over to Marrakesh, we saw some real action on the courts. Luca van Ascht faced Jaume Munar and was playing some good tennis like we can see here. Serving for the first set, Van Ascht couldn't get over the line and ended up getting broken. The set went to a tiebreak, and it was Munar who would come out on top. Unfortunately for Van Ascht, what followed was a slew of errors on both wings as his game fell apart, 7-6, 6-2 in favor of the Spaniard. Meanwhile in Houston, an upset was brewing. Number 5 seed Chris Eubanks faced the aggressive Rinky Hijikata, and let's just say it didn't end well for Eubanks. Hijikata had some moments of magic here, but Eubanks' serve +1 was equally as effective. So it came down to a tiebreak, and unfortunately for Eubanks, he was outdone by his own errors. It was then rinse and repeat in the second set with nothing to separate both players, so a tiebreak was the only way out. And yet again, Eubanks had no answers to Hijikata's variety. 7-6, 7-6 for Hijikata, who was happy to snap a 4-match losing streak. Off the court, Carlos Alcaraz takes to the golf course. I'm seeing more and more tennis players taking a liking to golf. Any idea why? So while Monday was a bit low-key, Tuesday came with some more action on both tours. Matteo Berrettini takes on Alexander Shevchenko in the round of 32 in Marrakesh, and the match comes out with a lot of heavy hitting. From Berrettini, of course. The Italian continued to put on a shot-making clinic, quickly grabbing the early break right here. Although Shevchenko did respond with some shots of his own, they were few and far between for the most part, as Berrettini quickly grabbed the first set 6-2. Come the second, an unfortunate miss on a routine overhead from Shevchenko would give Berrettini another early break right here. And the Italian would sail to victory 6-2, 6-1. Next up, we saw Stan Wawrinka scoring points in his raging war against Father Time. The 39-year-old Swiss faced Albert Ramos Vinolas for the 9th time, and Stan the man pounced on the Spaniard mercilessly. At a point, Stan had me wondering what the heck I was watching. The forehands. The backhands. And before we knew it, Wawrinka steamrolled Ramos Vinolas 6-1 in the first set. In the second set, Ramos Vinolas put some pep in his step and was giving Stan a run for his money like we can see here. With the set level at 4-all, Ramos Vinolas made a couple of errors to go down a break, and Wawrinka had no problems closing out the match 6-1, 6-4. Apparently, age is just a number after all. But when we switched over to Houston, number 7 seed Marcos Giron was facing a tricky test on paper against wildcard Denis Shapovalov in the round of 32. But with the Canadian off to a slow start, coupled with Giron's impeccable footwork, the first set was lopsided as the American took care of business. The second set was more of a back-and-forth affair as Shapo forced Giron to play from behind even more. Still, we had time for some exquisite shot-making early on, like this one right here. Determined to overturn the match, Shapovalov continued to force the issue with highlight-worthy reels like this one. But with the second set hanging in the balance at 5-all, Giron's immaculate footwork would pay off once again as he managed to break Shapovalov to take a 6-5 lead, his first lead of the set. He would then go on to close out the match in style after only 68 minutes of action. Zooming over to the WTA, and what do we find? Danielle Collins casually shows us that you can quickly adjust from the fast hard courts to the much slower clay surface within days. Facing Paula Badosa in the first round at the WTA 500 in Charleston, Collins raced out of the block with those signature backhand returns.
To the tram lines. And that is right inside the baseline.
Badosa still doesn't seem to be moving so well, but at the same time, Collins is just so brutal on her return as she limits Badosa to a 40% win percentage on second serve points. Punishing every single error Badosa makes, Collins quickly takes the first set 6-1. But not going down easily, Badosa comes up with a fight in the second set just after a slew of double faults helps Collins to a double break. Of course, Danielle accepts the donations, but then Badosa reacts by saving one of those break points right away with a powerful forehand. Collins, not willing to let her opponent back into the game, raises her level and sees out the match 6-1, 6-4 your final. The Americans' winning run continues, and it's now 8 consecutive wins on the bounce. Collins continues to unlock new levels to her tennis. I mean, what a season she's having. By the way, I'm super excited to be bringing you content from Danielle and others on the WTA Tour up close and personal. We'll be diving into the player storylines at each event and hearing from the players themselves just what life is like on tour. If you haven't heard about our new show, check this out. Hello from Austin. We're here at the ATX Open where we're going behind the scenes with the players that make up the WTA Tour. It's at events like these that players knocking on the door of the top 20 go to build their ranking and earn some significant prize money in the process.
You have Colis, you have Stephens, you have Kalinina. They're part of the best player in the world.
This is Courtside.
This crowd was amazing for me. I hope they enjoyed my tennis and they enjoyed what I did in my presentation.
Danielle Collins here. Payne Stearns. We're here at the Circuit of Americas getting ready to play at the ATX Open. What better way than going fast on the track?
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. Even though you've played in front of a lot of people, when it's not your sport, you feel a little bit tighter. But Sloan and Danielle were amazing.
I thought I was gonna lose all my hair in that one. This place is awesome.
A lot of people want to ask, how fast can you string a racket? Really, it's about how fast can you string it well.
What is up, everybody? It's your girl, Taylor Townsend, and we are here at the Dell Children's Hospital. We're about to go meet some kids. We're gonna make some days, coloring, playing games, and the whole nine. So let's go.
The thing that I love most about this event is the culture around tennis. And I think the way we're able to engage with our fans, I think is really special.
What a week it's been in Austin. We saw it all, from the crazy and unpredictable tennis to seeing just what goes into making the tournament happen behind the scenes. That's a wrap from the ATX Open, and we'll see you on the road. Wednesday in the tennis world tickled a few tear glands for fans. Estoril crowd favorite João Sousa plays his last match. Arguably the best Portuguese player ever, the 35-year-old reached a career-high number 28 in 2016 to become the highest-ranked Portuguese, and was also the first Portuguese player to win an ATP title back in 2013. With 4 ATP titles and a decent career, Sousa already told us that Estoril would be his last tournament. Retiring in front of your home crowd is heartwarming for sure. Facing the number 5 seed Arthur Fils in the opening round, Sousa came out swinging. Seeing his intentions, Fils decided to do this. The grueling physical battle continued, but the moment of truth came at 5-all when Fils did this to break the Portuguese. Holding serve, Fils then took the first set 7-5. In the second, Sousa tried to take the game to Fils, but the Frenchman was determined to take the wind out of Sousa's sails. Monfils would eventually get the break midway through the game, and then sprinkle in more variety to disrupt Sosa's rhythm like we can see here. A straight sets win for Fils in the end, and the Frenchman showed plenty of respect to his opponent at the net.
Singles career comes to an end here.
Meanwhile, Lamont was up to more mischief when he faced Henrique Rocha to begin his campaign in Estoril. Deep in the first set, Monfils just couldn't say no to his intrusive thoughts, so he decided to treat us to one of those signature moves right here. Breaking when it mattered most, Monfils stole the first set 7-5. Come the second, Lamont was putting on a show for us. To his credit, Rocha went all out against Monfils and managed to break early on after a forehand error from Monfils. But while serving to level the match, Rocha imploded, and as you would expect, Monfils was grateful for the donation. Serving to stay in the match, Rocha would then double fault. An unfortunate ending to the match for him. Flying over to Marrakesh, it's already day 4, and the round of 16 is already underway. Top seed Laszlo Djere has a mouth-watering clash with the crafty Fabio Fognini, and we have no idea that an upset was brewing. With little to separate both players in the first set, we go to a tiebreak, but it was Fognini who would come out on top thanks to some magical pieces of play right here. After grabbing the first set, Fognini decided to take a nap. Or maybe not. Djere actually raised his level, winning 90% of his first serve points, and then pouncing on Fabio's relatively weak second serves to make the second set a blowout. With the match hanging in the balance, it came down to a decider. Fognini had now woken up and was bawling. Both players exchanged breaks of serves midway through the game, but while serving to stay in the match, Djere faced a more tenacious version of the Italian. In what was a rather chaotic game, it took Fognini 6 match points to get over the line, and here's how he did it. But when number 4 seed Lorenzo Sonego was served a breadstick in the first set by Nagal, the Italian must have been shell-shocked, thinking he was facing a certain Spanish clay court specialist. Once he realized it was Nagal and not Nadal, Sonego was a different person in the second set. After drawing level, the match went to a decider, and this time Sonego transformed into an artist and then made the clay court his canvas. I mean, look at this. Shot of the day for sure. Sonego took care of business in what was an epic 3 sets of brilliant tennis. Here's a shout of victory for the Italian. Sonego's compatriot Matteo Berrettini also survived a tight 3-setter against Jaume Munar. A proud day for the Italians with wins for Fognini, Sonego, and Berrettini. But Houston called for our attention, and for good reason, so we had to switch over immediately. Top seed Ben Shelton was up against Zizou Bergs, a player ranked outside the top 100 who might be known more for his Instagram following. You would expect it to be a straightforward victory for Shelton, but it was the exact opposite. You see, Shelton's proficiency on clay has been questioned, and we touched on the subject in our deep dive about him. If you haven't seen it, check it out for sure. Facing lots of pressure, Shelton got off to a slow start, and before we blinked, he was down a set. Something needed to change quickly. With every point now important, Shelton needed his legs more than ever.
Amazing.
But Zizou wasn't giving away a lot of free points. He was also scrambling towards everything. Shelton eventually took the second set 6-4, but come the decider, it was a war of attrition, but it was Big Ben who got the job done in the end. After 2 hours and 25 minutes,
A first ATP quarterfinal.
a first quarterfinal on clay for Ben. That's some achievement considering his limited experience on the surface. Off the court, we see Carlos Alcaraz already putting in some reps ahead of Monte Carlo. Both Carlitos and Novak have over 2,000 points to defend during the clay season, and meanwhile Sinner only has about 500 points to defend. At this point, it's only a matter of when, not if, that Sinner is going to become world number 1, but when do you see that happening? Talking about Sinner, he spends his Wednesday doing some shooting for Gucci. Elsewhere, 2-time champion Simona Halep and 2009 finalist Caroline Wozniacki are both awarded wildcards into the Madrid Open. By the way, stay tuned because we'll be hearing from Simona herself on the channel shortly. I can't wait to share what she says with all of you. As the week unfolded, Thursday in tennis came with a message. Defending champions Casper Ruud and Frances Tiafoe began their title defense in the round of 16 after getting byes in the first round. Ruud steamrolled Botic van de Zandschulp, dropping only 3 games the entire match, and as usual, Hurkacz found a way to play tiebreaks even when facing a qualifier on clay. However, when we grabbed our popcorn for the Monfils-Fucsovics match, we saw probably one of the wildest swings in momentum. After both players served each other breadsticks in the first 2 sets, it came down to a decider. But fortune favors the brave, so while Monfils was playing like a pusher, becoming passive while holding match points, Fucsovics took the initiative, going for big shots. Here, we see Martin being brave again on a 3rd match point. He was rewarded in the end as he wrestled the match away from Lamont. And in the other fixture, Dominic Thiem fell to the veteran Richard Gasquet in straight sets. Meanwhile, Tiafoe needed 3 sets to get the better of an opponent ranked outside the top 100, facing James Duckworth in Houston. Off the court, we had some big news. Rafael Nadal pulled out of Monte Carlo, and I'm pretty sure some fans would have seen that coming. Also, we got some clarity from Novak's former coach Goran Ivanisevic following the interview that he did earlier in the week. Apparently, both parties grew tired of each other. Friday action in the tennis world was a cocktail of brilliant performances and dreadful mistakes on the court. Or should we say daylight robbery? Now at the quarterfinal stage, and with the stakes a lot higher, Nuno Borges faced Garin in Estoril, and let's just say the match will best be remembered for this horrible moment of umpiring. Someone called out during play, and despite Garin subsequently hitting the ball wide, Borges still lost the point. How on earth did that happen? Probably one of the worst umpire decisions you will ever see in the sport. Not even a replay of the point? I mean, come on. Fans weren't pleased with Garin for his unsportsmanlike conduct, and also the supervisor for not being useful in such an important moment. Borges would then go on to lose the match in straight sets. It was also straight sets wins for Casper Ruud, Hubert Hurkacz, and Pedro Martinez as they completed the semifinal lineup. But while we were pulling out our hair because of the horrible decision in Estoril, Frances Tiafoe was facing a stiff test from the crafty Jordan Thompson in Houston. Y'all are going to be seeing a deep dive on Tiafoe in the coming days. Thompson has been a threat to a lot of players in the last couple months, so it was interesting to see how Big Foe would perform. Faced with adversity, Tiafoe needed to find his best tennis when it mattered the most, and here's how he avoided being broken late in the first set. Tiafoe needed those cross-court winners during the tiebreak. With the Houston crowd fully behind their defending champion, Tiafoe took the first set on his 3rd set point. Raising his level even more in the 2nd set, Tiafoe produced some brilliant pieces of play like this. And when the going got tough, Tiafoe was up to the task. 7-6, 6-4 your final score, and a test passed with flying colors. Off the courts, there was also a lot in store for us. The Monte Carlo draw was announced, and we now know that Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic are on a collision course. What a day. It's Saturday now, and the stage for the semifinal is set. Top seed Ben Shelton takes on Thomas Martin Etcheverry, but Shelton's limited experience on clay makes many fans want to bet on Etcheverry. With the first set hanging in the balance at 6-all, Shelton unloads a sumptuous forehand early on in the tiebreak. But after a couple of unforced errors and double faults from Shelton, it's Etcheverry who takes the first set. With nothing much to lose at this point, Shelton brings the heat in the second, and it pays off. But it's not even about the winners. Shelton won 100% of his first serve points and only lost 2 points on his second serve the entire set, seizing the set 6-4. Shelton raises his level in the third and eventually tips the scales in his favor.
Our first clay court final is on the way for Ben Shelton.
And with Frances Tiafoe winning his match against Luciano Darderi in straight sets, the stage for an all-American showdown is set. Meanwhile, in Estoril, an upset was brewing when top seed Casper Ruud faced Pedro Martinez. A horrible misjudgment from Ruud gave Martinez the early break in the first set. To his credit, Martinez held his own in service games and went on to take the first set 6-4. But Casper Ruud wasn't going down easily. After knocking on the door for so long, the Norwegian eventually got his breakthrough thanks to a brilliant passing shot. And although he got broken right away, another poor service game from Martinez saw Ruud level the game. It became a war of attrition in the third set, with both players not willing to move an inch until Martinez did this. Eventually getting the double break, Martinez looked to put the match to bed, but Ruud saved match points to get one of those breaks back on his 5th breakpoint opportunity. However, Martinez took care of business in the next service game as he bagged the biggest win of his career, 6-4, 4-6, 6-4.
The biggest win of his entire career.
3 hours and 7 minutes, that's how long the match took, and with Hubert Hurkacz also needing 3 sets to power through former top 20 player Cristian Garin, we had a final to anticipate. Flying over to Marrakesh, Matteo Berrettini was up against number 7 seed Mariano Navone. From the outset, Navone fought for every single point. A forehand miss from Berrettini on set point proved costly as Navone went on to take the first set in the subsequent tiebreak. Not exactly thrilled, Berrettini rained down forehand hailstones to punish Navone. In what was an emphatic response from the Italian, Berrettini took the second set 6-3. And when he wasn't blasting forehands in the third set, the Italian was dishing out exquisite drop shots that even Alcaraz would have been jealous of. And after 2 hours and 42 minutes, Matteo got the job done 6-7, 6-3, 6-2. A first final in 2 years, what a moment for the Italian. Switching over to the WTA, it was mission impossible for Maria Sakkari when she faced Danielle Collins. With nowhere to hide, the Greek lost in straight sets in the semi-final clash in Charleston. After recovering from a slow start to the season and winning 10 of her last 12 matches, Sakkari was simply no match for the ultra-aggressive Danielle Collins. Meanwhile, Dasha Kasatkina prevailed in a mouth-watering 3-setter against Jessica Pegula, a match that also lasted almost 3 hours as both players broke each other 8 times. But if you thought Saturday in the tennis world was stacked, I wonder what you would say about Sunday. As the week reached its climax, Sunday afternoon delivered a special dose of nail-biting in 5 thrilling tournament finals, plus day 1 action in Monte Carlo. Starting in Marrakesh, Matteo Berrettini, who had emerged from a dark place, having dealt with injuries for so long, faced an in-form Roberto Carballes Baena. As usual, Berrettini let his forehands fly as he looked to pounce on Carballes Baena. On top of that, the Italian brought in a lot of variety with the backhand slice, volleys, and gorgeous drop shots like this. Who said Berrettini was only a serve and forehand player again? With the game dead even at 5-all, Berrettini resorted to a drop shot to break Carballes Baena. The Italian would then save multiple breakpoints himself to close out the first set 7-5. Come the second set, Berrettini was back at it again with the drop shots, and needless to say, it was spectacular. With a smooth blend of power and finesse, Berrettini picked his opponent apart as he broke his opponent twice to claim the title. 7-5, 6-2 your final score.
Matteo Berrettini is back with a bang.
A first title in 665 days for Berrettini at the expense of the defending champion Carballes Baena, and a return to the top 100 for the Italian. Better days ahead for sure. Switching focus to Estoril, we saw number 2 seed Hubie Hurkacz take on Pedro Martinez. Early on in the first set, Hurkacz made his move as he broke Martinez with this incredible backhand return.
Terrific.
Before we could even blink, Hurkacz had taken the first set 6-3 thanks to a lethal combo of big serves and brutal ground strokes. While Martinez was busy grunting so loudly, even when slicing, Hurkacz was busy putting on a backhand clinic in the second set. Martinez's excessive grunts couldn't save him from Hurkacz, who was now putting on a show. Down a break at 2-4, Martinez decided to have some fun doing this. But Hurkacz came with his ID to the party, so he responded by doing this right here. Hurkacz ended the match with an ace, his 15th of the match, as he cruised to victory after 1 hour and 26 minutes. By winning the title in Estoril, Hurkacz became the first Polish man to win a clay court title in 42 years. Iga Swiatek would have loved that one. Meanwhile in Houston, Ben Shelton made it his personal mission to answer those critics who said that he couldn't play on clay. Facing defending champion Frances Tiafoe in the US Men's Clay Court Championship in Houston, Shelton dominated Tiafoe in both serve and return stats. The game was close, with Shelton only being able to steal the first set at the death after a poor service game from Frances. With the ghost from his US Open loss to Shelton lurking, Tiafoe put some pep in his step with a much improved service game in the second, grabbing the set 6-4, but come the decider, the tables turned, and it was Shelton calling the shots as he cruised to victory.
And the first keep on coming for Ben Shelton.
A first title on clay for Shelton. I told you guys in the deep dive that we made about Shelton that the kid is special. He's now world number 14 and the second ranked American, just 275 points behind Fritz. You can't deny his talent. But you know what else you can't deny? Fierce woman who is on a mission to obliterate anything in front of her. Danielle Collins has now forgotten how to lose, and at this point, it's just ridiculously impressive. After dropping only one set en route to the final in Charleston, Collins faced the number 4 seed Kasatkina, and it was complete demolition. A 6-2, 6-1 beatdown to be exact. With a ridiculous 95% win percentage on her first serves and ultra-aggressive shot making, which led to 19 winners in the first set alone, we already knew that it was mission impossible for Kasatkina. Don't believe me? Check this out.
Wow.
After the match, here's what Kasatkina said.
First, I wanted to say that I'm gonna miss you on tour, but after this match, I'm not sure already, honestly.
With 1,500 points in 2 weeks, Collins is now back in the top 15, and she's just unplayable at the moment. But while Collins was celebrating her title, number 6 seed in Bogota, Camila Osorio, was getting a hero's welcome in front of 2,400 people after winning her second title in her homeland in Colombia. Let me tell you, Camila can flat out play, and we'll be hearing from her on the channel too, very soon. With not even enough time to put some butter on our popcorn, over to Monte Carlo we go, and what do we find? Lorenzo Musetti absolutely destroys a forehand in his match against Taylor Fritz. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what a 95-mile-per-hour forehand on the run looks like. Musetti upset Fritz in straight sets in the round of 64 clash. But then we saw Alexander Bublik go MIA against Borna Coric. Early in the second set, Bublik got fed up with the match and gave the ball kid his racket to play his opponent. But unfortunately, the ball kid made a double fault. A tribute to Bublik, maybe? Saving the best for last, the tennis world congratulated Djokovic for becoming the oldest number 1 in ATP history. At 36 years and 321 days old, Djokovic has now officially broken Roger Federer's record. Last week in tennis had a lot of action, but the truth is I am super excited for the first Masters 1000 of the season on clay that's already going on in Monte Carlo. With the top players needing to defend a lot of ranking points, and Jannik Sinner looking to seize that number 1 spot from Novak, the clay court season this year is going to be a banger. And you can keep up with all the action by subscribing to the channel. We'll be rolling out a new look and feel in the next few days to bring you even more exciting content from around the tennis tours, so stay tuned, you won't want to miss what we have cooking. And if you missed last week's videos, no worries, I have them showing on the screen right here.